we are live. Boy, that was on the nick of time. I was talking to Lily off camera, and she's bringing me up a beer, and she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "We don't have time. We don't have time for this, Lily. You got to just you have to make an executive decision and bring something up." But we are live. ABJ presents Tornado Tag episode 159, the history of the Intercontinental Championship, which you are looking at your TWF Intercontinental Champion. Boy, ain't I great? BP, we're going to go through the history of the Intercontinental Champion. It's had many looks. We're not going to post the looks up here. If you want to go seek out the looks of these titles, you can do so. But and then we're going to end this podcast with now it's just our picks. It's not, it can go by stat based or just favorites. Maybe we'll do one of each. We'll do our stat based one, who you think should be this, and then our personal Mount Rushmores of the Intercontinental Championship. How's that sound?
Okay. Yeah,
You
four
like
is going to be interesting. Four is going to, yeah, because if it was just one, that would be hard for me. It would be as hard as getting decent lighting in my setup here. That would be
someone took it to like a murder dungeon. I don't know what's happening over there.
Yeah.
So over the weekend, we had a pretty jam-packed day. We did did Brewfest, we had Fightertainment, a lot of cool events going on.
So much fun stuff going on. It was so cool to just be right on the streets of downtown Pottsville, calling wrestling, doing a little bit of interviews and fun stuff in between. Occasionally ringing a bell when I remembered to do it. So there was a lot going on.
And then ring your own bell.
Yeah.
We got ticketed. We got ticketed for being too handsome. Cup. You can't drink it. No, you need a beer glass. There's a beer glass.
I believe I got cited for having a too good of a speaking voice. I believe
that's what I got. I got hit up for being handsome.
Yes.
And just being awesome, I think, So
Security Inc. making friends in downtown Pottsville.
Ooh, okay. So we got Lily was working the Rotunda stand, and they had a few extra cans, so we were able to take and partake. I got hammered. I was drunk. Like, I was pretty drunk on commentary. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, you hit it well.
I kept it together, Al. Yeah, listen, if anyone has experience of being drunk on camera, I did a beer podcast for about 6 years. I can hold my own.
You have that experience.
Yeah. So I know this might be a premature when it comes to our TT awards, right? Where we break down like people's first years and stuff, but holy shit, Journey Burke rookie year. I mean, right now for me, she's the front runner rookie of the year.
Yeah, she is, and it's so funny because now she's really finding herself in this heel persona. She's really gotten.
But she can also be a great babyface.
But at us, well, if we go back to last year, if we go to Brews Giving, and that they did in Pottsville, Pilgrim Brewing, and the people who put together Schuylkill County Brewfest, they do one in the fall called Brews Giving indoors, obviously because it's in late November. But at Brews Giving, Journey was the city of Pottsville fell in love with Journey Burke Esquire, and they still adore Journey Burke. Not Jason Furious, not so much.
Not so much.
I
mean, as a professional wrestler, we respect Jason Furious tremendously.
Incredible.
And I mean, if you look at local titles, like who had the best title run independent wise, I mean, Mike Skyros with the HTW title. Shout out to HTW. Yeah. You have Jason Furious with his Pilgrim Championship. Like, there's been some banger title runs the past couple years that and Jason Furious is still going strong, but Journey Burke I think is on his heels.
Yeah, some fun traveling championships, which is really, really cool. And it has been, a hell of a run for Furious. And we've done it a few times against Tony Deppen. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's more of a daytime drink, but whenever, I guess.
It's just a citrusy smooth seltzer. I don't know.
Oh, well, then there's that. You could always do the redneck. You could always do the redneck mimosa. That's PBR and Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah. I love that all of the actual brewers themselves are drinking like
PBR and orange juice.
Yeah, ABR and Orange Juice.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're
Steven
enjoying the
Chambers
high life.
is here last week in wrestling here, but a little
right
bit of
on.
delay still.
Full
StreamYard is still kind of fucking us over with this.
It seems a little better than Wednesday. It seems a little better than Wednesday.
Yeah,
I had to sacrifice my lighting for a more crisp connection.
Yeah, yeah. So I do want to do a little bit of panhandling here, BP. I don't like doing it. I don't like, hey, make sure you hit that subscribe button, or make sure you hit the, go check out the merch page and buy some t-shirts. I'm trying my best to get caught up after, a couple, almost a year or two of no income, and trying to get caught up on bills and stuff like that. And also trying to save up some money to upgrade some stuff on the podcast. I really, really want to get some, these microphones and camera setups that I think would really, really enhance this channel when it comes to recording on location, and kind of recording things that'll be pre-recorded that can go out and not always be this lifestyle. So I'm asking you, the viewer, if you guys can help me out. Check out the merch pages, see if you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, monthly subscriptions, t-shirt sales, anything like that, Patreon, tips and donations, super chats, anything helps out, and it will all go to trying to get these cameras. The goal is to try to get 3 of them, and for simple reasons, to say we go to Pilgrim BP and you want to join me for a bang and beers. There's gonna be a camera on me, a camera on you, and a camera on both of us, and I can kind of do a 3-camera shot with cameras this fucking big. They're super, super small cameras. They travel really well. With my joint disorder, it makes it so much easier. So a little panhandling here. If you guys can help out as a community, that'd be awesome. If not, I understand. Like, share, subscribe, still all goes very long. But BP, local stuff kind of out of the way for now. This week in wrestling, anything crazy going on that kind of caught your eye? For me, once again, I kind of took a little bit of a break from weekly wrestling. I will be getting back in during the month of August, I promise. SummerSlam,
I checked.
We get back in.
I checked out a bit of SmackDown, but yeah, mostly I've been immersed in the local wrestling stuff. The local wrestling stuff so far since we last did a show, which is like 4 days ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been more into that the local stuff, just with those 2 big events going on, and obviously I have to do a lot with for PPW now. It's a month-long job for me as far as making sure that card is round out. A lot of work goes into that 3-hour show. And until you really get deep behind the scenes, you don't realize just how much work goes into the putting it together, the promotion, and all of those little things. So I've been doing a lot of work on that. But I know, I believe we did have a title change in a Ring of Honor, rather.
The trios.
Was Lee Moriarty? No, was it Lee Moriarty? I can't. Now I don't remember if it was Lee Moriarty or Lee Johnson. Was defeated Wheeler Yuta for the Pure title.
Oh wow, the trios titles changed as well.
Yeah, I believe that may have been the week before. I know. I believe the what do they call them? Christians. The Christian Lee Moriarty. I thought it was Lee Moriarty.
The ROH trio titles changed hands.
Oh, I thought they were like I didn't know they were. They had
so it was the Undisputed Kingdom holding it. Mike Bennett.
Oh, okay.
Some I forget who was holding them. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but I believe that it's now the Von Erichs and Dustin Rhodes are the trios champions for ROH.
That is interesting. That is very interesting. I did not know that. And then I also know that the women's, I believe they call it the women's TV title in Ring of Honor.
Yes.
Red Velvet defeated Billy Starks for that.
Yeah, I think Billy Starks is going to go and try to probably be the one to dethrone Athena. Yeah.
Seems like that could be very likely.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have a long history to cover here for this IC championship. So we'll cut this week in wrestling a little short. Plus, we're on a short week. We didn't have a bye week this week. We played Monday night. Now we got to play Thursday or whatever, how that works out. But so we had a short week. Layla Hirsch did break her arm wrestling.
So unfortunate.
Yeah. So honestly, two other injuries out there. Now, unfortunately, I don't think one of them has an online merch page. So let's do anything we can when it comes to social media to support them, show them love, tell them we sent you from the podcast. Jordan Oliver It's going to be laid up for a while.
Yes.
The kid is in really good spirits. You know, he realized he's going to be out for a while. I tried everything to be like, yo, do you have an online store? He's like, I really don't do that. So hopefully that changes soon. Keep an eye on him. Follow him on social media. If he does post anything, retweet it. Just keep him relevant. The kid works really, really hard. He should be someone that should be on TV very soon. And this is this is a setback for him at this age. And I also believe another GCW guy. Shit, I'm having a brain fart. Really tinier, like he's a tinier guy.
Not Micro Man.
No. I mean tiny as in like he's not like built. He's not like a built superstar, but he's really, really over. I'm having a brain fart. Yeah, Nasty Leroy could probably help me out.
This is not something I'm aware of, unfortunately.
Yeah, Tony Deppen tweeted about him being injured and support the kid because he's injuries suck.
That they do.
Yeah.
And that was another big thing for me this week is
go ahead.
I got to call a Tony Deppen match and he didn't get injured. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah,
I got to see Tony Deppen wrestle and I think we're finally on the other side. Now, I don't want to jinx that because I'm going to be calling a Tony Deppen match in about 2 weeks here. So I don't want to throw a jinx on that by saying, oh, I maybe that is over. But the story there is I have a very bad track record of Tony Deppen getting hurt when I watch him wrestle, or somebody getting hurt in a Tony Deppen match when I watch him wrestle. So the first time I saw Tony Deppen wrestle live was at Schuylkill County Brewfest 2022, and he hit his head on the concrete and needed several staples and stitches to close up his head wound. And then I saw him wrestle in 2023 in Brooklyn at GCW against Zack Sabre Jr., and that is when he broke his arm. And then I had one or two where it was okay. I saw him wrestle at Ring of Honor, WrestleMania weekend, and he was fine. Wrestle a few times for GCW, and he was fine. But then I saw him wrestling Sean Legacy at AXW a few months ago, and Sean Legacy broke his finger. But they were well on their way to having a match of the year candidate, and now they are going to be running it back on August 17th at AXW. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to scroll through this, and if I do, Ratty Daddy Cole Radrick is injured.
Oh yeah, love Cole Radrick. That's a shame.
Yeah,
get well.
I don't mean
Ratty
disrespect
Daddy.
by saying he's a smaller guy, but he does have that fight from behind underneath style. Like, yeah, he's like the modern day Whipwreck. He's super he's super over with the crowd, super relatable. But Cole Radrick also
very good wrestler.
Yeah, and I retweeted Radrick and Jordan Oliver's socials and their stuff on Twitter. So if you follow me on social media on Twitter, I retweeted both of those, so you can check out both their things. And I think they have Cash App and Venmos that you can support them if you can. Also, if you're not supporting us, support them. Either way, it goes good for me. See, Henry, what's going on? All right, BP, let's go through the history of the IC title.
Yes, the Intercontinental Heavyweight Wrestling Championship is what I believe it used to say on the classic version of the title, my preferred version of the title. Not that the modern one is bad by any stretch of the imagination. I think it kind of looks like a watch, so maybe that's why I don't like it as much as the old one. But the one that that your Intercontinental title is modeled after, that is the Intercontinental title that I know and love. I prefer the traditional black leather than over the white that they had when they brought it back. But this is always was. For much of its history, especially early on, for the first roughly 25 years it was around, this was the secondary title. So 1 second, just going to duck away to wipe my nose.
You're good.
This was the championship underneath the WWF or later WWF championship. And it's born from another title. So in the 70s, in the late 70s, the WWF, right before it changed names, introduced the North American heavyweight title. And before that, it was always, you just had your world champion, which is usually Bruno Sammartino by that point. Now we're in at the time this title's introduced, we're in the Bob Backlund era. And then you had your tag titles, and that was really it. Sometimes they would do like gimmicky stuff, like they had the World Martial Arts title, which was just a vehicle for Antonio Inoki. They did some other things like that, but usually it was just those two titles. So in the late 70s, they introduced the North American Heavyweight Championship, and it was held mainly by Ted DiBiase, well before $1 Million Man, well before. So we're talking about like the late 1970s. I believe DiBiase was the champion from February to June of 1979, and he won and lost that title in Allentown. So the two big taping spots for WWF wrestling or WWF wrestling were Hamburg. Obviously, we've talked about it a lot on the show because we've done shows there. So the Hamburg Fieldhouse would tape All-Star Wrestling, and then there was another show they would do called Championship Wrestling, and that would usually be taped at Agricultural Hall in Allentown. So DiBiase wins the title or was awarded the title. I just see they did a lot of phantom title changes, but I think it was just kind of he showed up as the North American champion. He loses that title in June to Pat Patterson, also in Allentown. And somewhere along the way, Patterson does lose the North American title to Seiji Sakaguchi in Japan. And that title just becomes a Japanese thing for a few years until it eventually just goes defunct. But in the 70s, early 80s, pre-Vince McMahon Jr., Vincent K. McMahon taking over, they did have a pretty good working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So to the point where there is that legendary thing where Bob Backlund lost the WWF title to Antonio Inoki, but the title change was never officially recognized. Like certain things would recognize Inoki as a champion, certain things would not. But what they do before Patterson loses it to Sakaguchi is they came up with this entire other title, which did not exist, called the WWF South American Championship. So they basically said that they were going to unify the North American title and the South American title in a tournament in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, which totally happened. This really 100%. Happened.
The barn burner of a tournament.
So it totally happened, and there totally was a South American champion as well as a North American champion. So Pat Patterson wins this tournament, which was, I think it was maybe I think it was a 128-man tournament is what it was. It was the North American champion, the South American champion, and 126 other wrestlers. And Pat Patterson emerged on top to unify those two titles. And so you have North America, South America, their continents. So this is now the Intercontinental title. So that's where that is born. Is that the first Intercontinental title there?
It's what it's saying online. Yes, it's the first generation of it.
Okay, so yeah, this is obviously back when wrestling belts and boxing belts were a lot more intertwined. And so Patterson has it for a bit, and Ken Patera has it for a bit. And for a while especially after Patera had it, Don Morocco had it, usually it was something they would use for how do I want to put this? This is usually something they would use to kind of have a heel. It was a good way to have a heel have a title, because WWF is a legendarily, and we've talked about this a lot, a babyface territory. Mm-hmm. If you look through the history, especially definitely pre Yokozuna, but especially like pre Triple H, it was rare for a heel to be the WWF champion for longer than a couple weeks. Up until Triple H is like a long-term heel champion, they kind of build around in the early 2000s. Your main heel champions that had a run longer than that had a run or two would have been Superstar Billy Graham and Yokozuna, and that was it. Because it was always building around the big baby face. It was building around Bruno first, and then Hogan, and Austin later. But by that time, it's Vince Russo, so they're flipping the title around like crazy. But anyway, so a lot of your early Intercontinental champions that had like runs of any kind of length. Well, no, that's not true, because Pedro Morales was champion for over a year. But you had your Ken Pateras and your Don Moroccos. It was something that like the top heel that like was a heel that would stay around, that wasn't going to have like program after program with Backlund. is going to have. So Don Morocco has that title for 2 runs in the early 80s. And Don Morocco was basically their top regular heel at that point. Usually you just bring people in for a program at Backlund, but Don Morocco sticking around. And then by the time we get to Tito Santana winning it, it's going to kind of get that reputation it has now of being the quote-unquote worker belt. And this is what you always hear about the Intercontinental title, with a few glaring exceptions, I would say. There's a few glaring exceptions, and 2 of them wrestled each other at SummerSlam 1988 for it. But the era of the post-Don Morocco era is pretty much the worker belt. If you look back at the quality of wrestling in the WWF in the early to mid 80s, like that bridge between Vincent J. McMahon and Vincent K. McMahon, up to like probably WrestleMania 2, Tito Santana is definitely one of the best people they've got. Tito Santana was very, very good.
Tito probably is definitely the one who changed it to be the work rate title. Like that kind of is where that coin.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. So it's Morocco beat Morales clean. Which time? Morocco beat Morales twice for that title. I actually the one I have seen before. So
and I believe Tito's the first one to take it to be now a WWF title.
I believe it was WWF before that. I know like Wikipedia has it set up that like okay, I see what it I see what they're. So Tito was a champion when they officially pulled out of the NWA. Tito was a champion when they officially pulled out of the NWA. So yeah, if you look at and that was a big thing. Like, and this is another reason why even now they usually don't call the WWE. Maybe they do now, but for the longest time they wouldn't call the WWF title the WWF World Title. They would just call Hulk Hogan was always just called the WWF champion. And that was a holdover from when WWF was still, even though they didn't recognize the NWA champion, they were in the NWA and they were a part of the alliance. They respected the territory system. The NWA respected their territories. Nobody was running Philly. Nobody was running Pittsburgh. Nobody was running Boston or New York. But WWF and later WWF under Vincent J. McMahon, Vince McMahon's father, they would do the same thing. They wouldn't run Atlanta. They wouldn't run Chicago. They wouldn't run Dallas because Dallas belonged to the Von Erichs. The Carolinas belonged to Crockett, and Mid-South owned the New Orleans, and Eddie Graham owned Florida. So they played nice. And Vincent J. McMahon, Vince Sr., he would always have a seat on the board of directors for the NWA. Even though he didn't use their champion, he had a vote on who it was.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's something that that's something where just because Vincent J. McMahon was respected like that, and he had that seat at the table, but one of the things, if you were an NWA territory, you could have your territory's champion, but you couldn't call him a world champion.
Yeah, Rick even says Tito was the first IC champion after the WWF. Yeah.
Yep. So you couldn't call your champion of your area the world. There was only, according to the NWA, there's only one world champion. If Harley Race was the NWA world champion, that's the world champion. So like Mid-Atlantic, the main title was the U.S. title. There were a lot of different versions of the U.S. title. You had the Detroit version of the U.S. title, the Sheik had. You had the Florida heavyweight title. And so the WWF title was the one for the up north. And so then they have the Intercontinental title because this is kind of just clearly putting in that second place. So yeah, Tito was another 2-time champion. He did kind of lose it to Greg Valentine and win it back there in 1984. So Greg Valentine is actually the Intercontinental champion. And that's when we get to there it is. This is my favorite wrestling belt. That as it looks right there with the red WWF logo, that is the one. That is the one. So Greg Valentine, I don't know if they actually had that design at WrestleMania 1, now that I think of it, but I know by 2 they had it. So Valentine defends against JYD at WrestleMania 1, loses it to Tito shortly after that. Valentine was also the first person to really win the heavyweight, the Intercontinental title outside of the United States. Obviously Rio de Janeiro, but the Valentine win was in Toronto. So that was after they bought out the Tunnies in Toronto, and you're coming into a new territory. You want to make a big to do. You're not going to change that world title a lot, especially back then. They didn't change that world title. They did quick changes when heels had it usually, but your babyface champion, Bruno had it for 7.5 years. And then Pedro Morales had it for, I think, like 3-4 years. And then Bruno had it again for 4 years. And then Backlund had it for 5 years. You do that quick you had Graham in between. He had it for a while. But then you did that quick transition with the Sheik. The Sheik was only champion for like a month and a half. And then Hogan has it for 4 years. And then they start to pick up the pace a little bit. But this is a title that they can also use at this point to have title changes a little more frequently. So we don't want to change that world title a whole lot. But nobody had a 4-year reign with the Intercontinental title. Gunther just broke the record, and it was a little over 2 years. Or no, under 2 years. It was actually under 2 years. Like, nobody's ever had that title for 2 years in one go. So once we have Tito's second run, now we get to the guy that I really think puts the title on the map. And I may be telegraphing my Mount Rushmore a little bit. I might be a little biased, but the Macho Man Randy Savage wins it in February of 1986, shortly before WrestleMania 2. And Randy Savage came in, and Randy Savage was immediately a phenom. Like, everybody knew, like, oh, this guy's good. Like, there was that immediate, like, we've got a diamond here. And they as the Intercontinental Champion, Randy Savage is working programs with Hogan for the WWF title. He's doing programs with Bruno Sammartino coming out of retirement. He is really elevating that title. Hey, yeah, we both were doing the we both had the same idea here. So Savage is really elevating things, and this is also coming at a time where WWF is expanding. We are in the heart of the Hulkamania rock and wrestling era, whatever you want to call it. WrestleMania 1's a big success, and it's full steam ahead now. So they would do, at this point, not just A shows and B shows, but they would do in a lot of nights, especially weekends, A, B, and C shows. So they could be in New York with their A roster, and they could be in a mid-sized town like a Rochester or something like that with their B show, and then a smaller town like I know a lot of the C shows happened in Hazleton at the Holy Family Academy, where a PPW used to run. That was a WWF spot for their C shows a lot. So your C shows usually didn't have like an Intercontinental title match or something like that. Your C shows, maybe they have a tag title match, but it's usually just kind of it's not your top level guys. Your main event's going to be a match.
Interesting thing with this title at this point in time, Macho Man Randy Savage. Maybe I'm telling the tale too soon. Maybe I'm burying the lead, but I only think he had it. He only had it that one time. I don't think he gets it back here anytime soon.
No, he was only the Intercontinental Champion once.
Yeah. But he decides he's gonna go home and he's gonna polish it up and clean it up pretty nice, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna take this. He's gonna take this championship. It's a little dirty. It's a little rusty looking. I want to get it a little cleaned up. Well, he took some cleaner to it, and if you go look at the old title, he strips all of the brass plating off of it.
Oh yeah.
He essentially ruins the title.
Which it's amazing that back then. Well, it's not amazing because it's just showing the evolution of the wrestling business. That back then there just was the one title. Because nowadays they have the road belt and they have the TV belt. Like the belt they use on TV is usually not the same physical title that the wrestlers will take on the road with them.
And a lot of the TV titles don't have the button straps; they're Velcro, so
Velcro.
It's easier to get on and off. Yeah. Because I'm gonna be honest, owning my first belt, it takes freaking forever.
Yeah. So yeah, so back then, yeah, you just had the one. You just had the one. It was growing, but it wasn't a. It was growing, but it wasn't quite there. So yeah, Savage, and you want to talk about the match that cements the IC title as the quote unquote worker belt. It's WrestleMania 3, where Savage, that 414-day run comes to an end at the hands of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and now we're going to kind of take a little bit of a detour. And I don't want to besmirch this next guy, because for a while people would say, oh, he's the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time because he had the longest reign up until very recently. But Steamboat's going to drop it to the Honky Tonk Man, which is kind of surprising. The rumor I've always heard that Steamboat is to this point, Steamboat is by far the shortest reigning Intercontinental champion. He was only Intercontinental champion for a little over 2 months. And from what I understand,
it was 65 days, but it's only recorded as 64 days.
Right. It was probably one of those things where it was a tape, like it was taped the night before or something like that, because he loses it on TV, he loses it on Superstars. So the thing I've always heard is Ricky Steamboat, maybe motivated by his wife at the time, Bonnie. They had just had they were about to have their first son, Richie Steamboat, who became a wrestler later, or she was pregnant with his son, Richie. And he requested time off, which was a gigantic no. You didn't request time off in the WWF, especially if you wanted to keep your push back in the 80s. So the plan I had always heard was for Ricky Steamboat to lose that Intercontinental title at some point down the line to the natural Butch Reed, who had just come over from Mid-South, and he beat Coco Beware at WrestleMania 3. He was getting a pretty big push. And so the Honky Tonk Man kind of is the benefit of there it is. Oh, Honky Tonk Man has debunked this, and maybe this isn't true. This is an urban legend, though.
I don't believe Honky Tonk.
or that. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, the Honky Tonk Man goes on that epic 454 day run, the long-time record-setting run. And we can make fun of the Honky Tonk Man because it's such an over-the-top gimmick, and he isn't at the level bell to bell maybe of a Randy Savage or a Ricky Steamboat. But the Honky Tonk Man drew some pretty good money on those B shows, main eventing, defending the Intercontinental title against like a Jake the Snake or a Jim Duggan or a Brutus Beefcake or somebody of that ilk.
He really coined how to be the chicken shit heel. Like, you wanted him to lose the title, but he was that first, because they would never do this with the World Championship. Like, the IC Championship is the perfect place to play this character out, where it's almost like this Andy Kaufman, where he claimed he was the greatest intergender champion, and everybody wanted to beat him, but he found these ways to sneak and cheat, and it pissed people off, and they wanted this title off of him.
the man's Jerry Lawler's cousin. He knows how to be like. And he spent a lot of time in Memphis. Yes, there's that Elvis thing, but there's a lot of Memphis in the Honky Tonk Man. And he's got the great Memphis manager, Jimmy Hart. And Honky Tonk Man drew money. So you can disparage Honky Tonk Man because he's such a gimmick, and you might not like the matches as much, but there you see, out Drew Hogan sometimes. The Honky Tonk Man was he was very over. People wanted to pay. It was the classic professional wrestling heel. I want to pay money to see him get beat. That's what it's all about. You can either want to pay money to see the conquering hero or pay to see the guy get beat. And that was definitely the Honky Tonk Man's thing. And ask and ye shall receive, because SummerSlam 1988, it was supposed to be a rematch of WrestleMania 4. So SummerSlam, the original SummerSlam 1988, rather, it was supposed to be a rematch of WrestleMania 4, Brutus Beefcake and the Honky Tonk Man, but instead we get an injury to Brutus Beefcake at the hands of Outlaw Ron Bass and a mystery opponent, and that story title reign comes to an end in 30 seconds at the hands of the Ultimate Warrior. And now it's definitely not the work rate belt. And
we get a new title look at this point in time.
Okay, yeah. So this is the Intercontinental title I grew up on right here. With the it's very similar, but you don't have the red WWF. Yeah, there's a little bit of a difference. So that the one before this and this are for me the two classic, perfect. That is a perfect wrestling belt right there.
Yep.
No notes. 10 out of 10. That is a perfect wrestling belt. So the Warrior does have that infamous loss to Rick Rude at WrestleMania 5. We covered that a few months ago. Wins it back. If you want to look for a good Ultimate Warrior match, one of the best Ultimate Warrior matches, everybody will talk about the one with Hogan at WrestleMania 6, and the match at WrestleMania 7 with Macho Man Randy Savage. It's not the best wrestling match I've ever seen, but it might be my favorite wrestling match, the Warrior and Randy Savage.
Well, the guy he fused with here for the IC title too is probably one of my favorite Warrior feuds.
Ravishing Rick Rude. It always amazes me that Ravishing Rick Rude was only in the WWF for like
a hot cup of tea.
It was literally like 3 years.
Yeah.
And it felt like he was there forever. I mean, part of that is my age at the time, but yeah, like 3 years. So he
left such an impact in that short time he was there.
Yeah, and he did, and his feud with the Warrior has a huge part to do with that. Where, yeah, that finish with Bobby Heenan grabbing the foot on the suplex at WrestleMania 5. But if you want to see a really good Ultimate Warrior match, that match with Rude at SummerSlam '89 is a very good ultimate. Like Rick Rude does almost a Gonzo bomb in that match. It's incredible. But Rick Rude, yeah, in fact, one of my earliest wrestling memories. It was I went to this for my I want to say it was so it would have been my 6th birthday in 1989. Yeah, I'm very old, so it takes a while to remember how old I was back then. So I got to go to a house show at the Philadelphia Spectrum, front row, in the summer of 1989. And the two big main events were Demolition defending the tag titles against the Twin Towers, Akeem and the Big Boss Man.
Mm-hmm.
And then the main event was Rick Rude defending the Intercontinental title. This is probably like a few weeks before he loses it to Warrior against the Warrior, and the Warrior wins by like count out, I think. And that match is like locked into my brain. Just locked into my brain. Rude and the Warrior at the Spectrum. But then the Warrior's second run is going to end when he wins the WWF title. So he has to vacate the IC title. And now we're going to get into, and if we're going to be here for 3 hours, we go over every single title reign. So we can kind of speed these up. This is when you're getting into the work rate 2.0 or of like Mr. Perfect, who has.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I want to showcase here is
gets hurt.
Yeah. Warrior wins the title, loses the title. And I just want to put this out because we have a title change, a look again. Not a very short look at this, but this is the first color scheme of the IC title. During Warrior's second run, he had a yellow strapped IC championship. It wasn't for very long. There's not a lot of like stuff of it. But he had a yellow one for a short amount of time during that run.
Yeah, so Warrior would even do that, I think, with the WWF title. Like, I believe when he loses it to Slaughter, he loses it to Slaughter, he actually, the title strap was blue. I think like eggshell blue for the WWF title, if I remember correctly.
I did turn off real quick too. I did turn off this. So if you type longer messages because you want to interact, do not be afraid to do that anymore. It has been turned off. I was able to go and do that. So I apologize, Ricky, that the stream bot kind of hit you for typing a lot. That won't happen again. So guys, please, interaction, engagement, chat away. It's all open up.
Especially because there were some great messages. They was throwing out some good stuff.
You guys are doing amazing. Please. Please keep it coming. But yes, the Warrior does vacate the title after his second run of it.
Yeah, the main event of WrestleMania 6 is Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior, title versus title. When the Warrior beats Hogan for the WWF title, he vacates that Intercontinental title.
Yes.
Okay, I was making sure I could still hear you because your video is frozen on my end, but I don't know if it's frozen for everybody.
And
so the tournament to crown a new Intercontinental champion is there. There we go. Wait, no. Move around.
Just keep going. I'll fix it. You just keep talking.
All right. So it was a little distracting there. So Mr. Perfect is originally supposed to lose the title. You're good. To the Texas or to Brutus Beefcake, but that's when Beefcake has his parasailing accident. So he does a quick title change with the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich. This is mentioned in the Iron Claw about how Kerry is in the WWF now, and he's got the Intercontinental title, and when's he going to get a shot at that other guy? So this is the kind of work rate 2.0 era because Mr. Perfect is an all-time great Intercontinental champion. And then you're going to have Bret Hart beating Mr. Perfect. Again, if I'm like picking out a few Intercontinental title matches to watch, Bret Hart's win over Mr. Perfect at SummerSlam 1991 is way up
fantastic.
There.
Fantastic match.
Way up there. One of the people that's not going to be on that list is the Mountie. I love Jacques Rougeau. Jacques Rougeau is a very big guilty pleasure of mine. But he was only the champion for 2 days. And this is so this is a controversial one because I've heard two versions of this. So the Mountie wins the title from Bret Hart at a house show and then loses it to Roddy Piper at the Royal Rumble right after. They said on all the shows like Bret was wrestling with a fever and all this stuff. But the rumor I'd always heard was Bret had either given his notice and told him he was going to go to WCW, or that he was threatening to do it, so they just took the title off of him, and obviously he reconsiders. So the Mountie gets this very short reign, just transition to the Piper, but things square away with Bret, so Bret gets it back. And now we're kind of full on in the work rate belt mode. Another, if we're singling out matches, like Intercontinental title matches, especially Intercontinental title changes, the SummerSlam in London in 1992 with Bulldog and Bret is up there as well. Especially when you hear like how Bulldog was obliterated out of his mind and like Bret kind of had to dictate the whole thing, and it really will give you a new respect for Bret Hart on that one. But Bulldog was so over at this point. It was insane how over he was. But this is also at a time when we are knee deep in the steroid scandal with the WWF. Vince McMahon's about to be, put on trial for steroid distribution and things like that. So the WWF in late 1992 is getting really serious with drug testing. They put in like basically almost Olympic level drug testing and told people they had to get off of steroids, get off the gas. And two people who failed drug tests that fall and were summarily kind of out of the company very quickly and very kind of conspicuously were the British Bulldog and the Ultimate Warrior. So with the British Bulldog, that is going to lead to him on one of the final episodes of the original run of Saturday Night's Main Event. It was over on Fox at this point. He's going to lose that to, again, one of the people who's got to be considered one of the all-time great Intercontinental champions, and that's Shawn Michaels.
And we got a title change, title look change.
Did he do a variant of the belt at this point, or was that a little bit later?
So this is the first variant.
There we go. Okay,
second variant. So we got the Robin Egg Blue on his first run.
Yep.
So if you're into figure collecting, there is a figure of Shawn Michaels that is the WWE Superstars edition, which is the Walmart exclusive, and there is a Shawn Michaels that is packaged with this blue title.
Interesting. That's very interesting. So I just double checked. That was actually the last of the original run of Saturday Night's Main Event. So that was in 1992. We don't get another Saturday Night's Main Event until 2006.
Yeah.
So that was the end of the line for Saturday Night's Main Event at that point. And so at this point, it's also a bit of just booking is going a little crazy here. You can tell Vince's eye is off the ball a little bit because of all these scandals and all this other stuff going on, and people are leaving and the company's not in great condition at this point. So for that Survivor Series, so Michaels wins a title shortly before Survivor Series. And
the blue, so real quick too, the blue title does not last long. He only has it for a very, very short time, and then it switches to the white strap.
Yep, and that's the debut of the look that would kind of continue through when they revived that style.
There is one more color change to the title.
Okay.
There's one more.
Not
we'll
now.
Get to it then. Not now. No.
Okay. I know who it is. Yeah, I know who it is. It clicked in my head.
Yep.
So, so it's funny because the Survivor Series leading up to this, after Michaels beats the Bulldog, one of the matches that was being advertised, because Ric Flair is a WWF champion at this point. He had just beaten Randy Savage to win it back. And there's a whole thing of Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental title at Survivor Series. And then Ric Flair, as the WWF champion, is going to be teaming with Razor Ramon, who is brand new, against originally Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior. But then the Ultimate Warrior is leaving because of this drug testing thing. So it becomes Randy Savage and Mr. Perfect. But at this time, Vince McMahon is also saying that he wants to scale down Ric Flair's push. And Ric Flair is going to kind of be used to put over guys and be more toward the middle of the card. And the Ric Flair's deal with the WWF is, Vince said, if you're ever not happy with what you're doing here, just say the word and we'll let you go. And that's going to happen here. Rick's like, I want to go down. I want to go back to WCW. So Rick loses to, and there was a few different ideas of who Rick could lose the WWF title to. But I guess it was like they would get so much fan mail, especially internationally, for Bret Hart, that they made the decision to. He just lost the Intercontinental title, but he's getting all this fan mail. He's getting all this attention. We're going to put the title on Bret Hart. So that happens in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canadian Thanksgiving. So that Survivor Series match, which was originally supposed to be Shawn defending against Bret for the IC title, because Bret and Shawn had great matches when Bret was IC champion. They had like some of the first ladder matches in the WWF. Now it's Bret defending the WWF title against Shawn, and the Intercontinental title is not at stake. Shawn kind of dominates this title through 1993. He does have that quick title change with Marty Jannetty. Jannetty was only champion for about 3 weeks.
And the white strap too, just to kind of, if we're going off color schemes here, the white strap was it bounced back and forth. So Shawn had the white and black. When we get to a little bit later, it changes back to the black, and then the white reappears for Jeff Jarrett, Dean Douglas, and Goldust and Mark Merrow, and I believe Hunter Hearst Helmsley. So there's a few times where the white strap does come back, but it does bounce back between white and black a few times.
Okay, well, Dean Douglas was only champion for like 14 minutes, so that was a Shawn thing. That was more of a Shawn thing. We'll get to that. So Shawn Michaels' second reign in late 1993, you're not going to believe this, but he doesn't lose the title in the ring. You're not going to believe it, but he doesn't lose the title in the ring. I believe they said he had like a hand injury or something, but okay. So according to Wikipedia, it says he was suspended for testing positive for steroids.
He tested positive.
I had also heard that he was kind of threatening to leave the company, starting to go to WCW.
He even says himself at this point in time he failed a drug test, but he didn't. He thought it was bullshit, and he refused to give the title back.
Yeah, so that becomes a big thing because they made a slightly shinier one. So you can see the difference in the two of them, because to crown a new champion, they do a weird thing. They do a battle royal on Raw. Like 1 week they're doing a battle royal, and the final 2 guys in the battle royal are going to wrestle the next week on Raw, and the winner of that's Intercontinental champion. So the final 2 are Rick the Model Martel, who would have made a great IC champion at some point.
Yes.
And the guy who was going to be the kind of face of this title for the next few years, the bad guy, Razor Ramon, who's going to win his first IC title on September 27th, 1993. And then Shawn Michaels is going to come back and have a big feud. They do a dusty finish with IRS at the Royal Rumble with Razor Ramon. And then Razor's going to have it a few times. He's going to lose it to Diesel, win it back. Did you have something with Razor Ramon that you set the Ramon?
And when Razor wins it, it leads to my favorite match in professional wrestling history. It leads to Razor versus Shawn in the first ladder match, which is made iconic by this amazing figure.
That is really cool. Now the belts are a little off because they look identical. Like Razor's belt was a lot shinier.
Yeah.
Shawn's belt looked a little more faded and worn. because it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's funny that match at WrestleMania 10, it didn't land for me as much as it does for other people. And I know Shawn Michaels has a reputation for having a lot of his match laid out beforehand. Like Randy Savage had the same thing. Like there's certain guys that have a reputation that they like to kind of lay things out almost move for move. DDP, Randy Savage is notorious for it. Like they say, like they practiced that WrestleMania 3 match. Basically, it was scripted down to the arm drag. And they kind of did the same thing with that ladder match. Doesn't make it any less good. But I know that because I saw pretty much the exact same match at the Spectrum 2 months before WrestleMania 10, to the point where I'm watching WrestleMania 10 with some friends, and I'm like, well, this is going to happen. And, oh, watch, Diesel's going to get kicked out. And, Shawn's going to fall off the ladder, and he's going to land his leg, he's going to get crotched, basically. Yep. I don't know the term crotched at that point.
That happens a lot now, because I actually watched when Randy and AJ were doing their WrestleMania match. I watched it in a dark match in Wilkes-Barre.
Yep. They that happens quite a bit now. Yep. But yeah, it was basically like, oh, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen here. Mm-hmm. So then Razor loses it to Diesel, wins it back. Jeff Jarrett gets a run here. He's a pretty high.
He's high on the list for me. When I love Shawn,
really
love Shawn,
mm-hmm.
But when I think the IC title, like one of the first names that pops into my head is Jeff Jarrett.
Okay. I felt like at the time, and I have way more respect for Jeff Jarrett now, but I felt at the time he won it, it was like, this is a step down for this title. Just because of the way, I think it was more the way he was pushed. Because he was around for a year and he would lose a lot. He didn't seem like a threat. And then out of nowhere, he beat Razor Ramon. I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, he's not good enough. Like, and that's nothing against Jeff Jarrett, it's just the way they pushed him. And again, it's that cowardly heel. That's what they're leaning into. Jarrett, and one of the things that does give Razor and Jarrett a lot of reigns is they did trade it back and forth. Jarrett had one of those things where he had a match with Bob Sparkplug Holly where they held up the Intercontinental title, and then they did a rematch the next week, and that counts as another reign for Jarrett. Him and Razor Ramon traded the IC titles at a house show. So basically, he wins it for the first time in January of 95. By May, he's a 3-time champion. And then he's going to lose that title to Shawn Michaels at In Your House 2, the Lumberjacks, which is an interesting match because after the match, it looked like they were going to set up it looked like the long-term plan was going to be it looked like the long-term plan was going to be a match between the Roadie and Jeff Jarrett, because, and I know Rick just posted chat Jarrett and Michaels at SummerSlam. It was actually in Your House. It was the In Your House before SummerSlam. Yep. It was the pay-per-view after King of the Ring 95, to go back to last week. So there was supposed to be this whole thing, this argument between Jarrett and the Roadie backstage after the match, because Roadie accidentally trips Jarrett, which leads to Michaels winning the title. And it's an incredible match, an incredibly hot crowd too. But literally after the match, like before they could even cut this promo, Jarrett and the Roadie both walk out of the company. They both just peace out, and Jarrett doesn't come back for a while.
And Jarrett, like that match for me. So like to me at that point, Shawn's the bar. Like if you wrestle Shawn and you can make me like you more than I like Shawn, like that was the bar for me for liking my next wrestler. Razor won that for me at that ladder match. And then this match here is I was like, I love Jeff Jarrett. I'm a Jeff Jarrett guy.
Oh, Jeff Jarrett. Yeah. Looking back, Jeff Jarrett was great.
Oh, so, and the funny thing is I'm a Shawn guy, and my cousin who grew up, and he's my wrestling buddy at the time, his name is Barrett. So every time I'm like, I'm the sexy boy, Tony Blackwell, or ABJ, and he's Jimmy BARRET, Jimmy Barrett.
There you go. So this is gonna shock you. This is gonna shock you, but Shawn doesn't do the job to lose the title here. But it's not his fault. He was attacked by 300 Spartan soldiers.
Yes.
Gerard Butler led his entire crew into a bar in Syracuse
And Shawn was minding his own business. He didn't do anything wrong. All their girlfriends just liked him because he was such a sexy boy. And he was telling the girls, yo, leave me alone. Go back to your guys.
Right.
I don't want problems. I don't do drugs. No. He's an innocent bystander, essentially.
Right. And so he does get, the whole incident there. And he has to surrender the title to his opponent in your house for Dean Douglas.
Essentially, Shawn Michaels got a little drunk, probably had a couple pills, and forgot that he wasn't traveling with Razor, Diesel, and Triple H that night, and he was hanging out.
I believe the Bulldog and the 1-2-3 Kid is who he was with, and they tried.
Bulldog wasn't fighting for him, and the 1-2-3 Kid ain't doing shit, and I think Sonny was there. I think Sonny got them off him.
Don't sleep on X-Pac. X-Pac was a bouncer. He's a little guy, but that dude could fight. But they like literally pulled a passed out Shawn Michaels out of a car and started beating on him. So that leads to Shane Douglas being the Intercontinental Champion for all of about 14 minutes, I believe, because he loses it immediately to Razor Ramon, who then loses it to. I think we're gonna have a new belt here because Razor's gonna lose it to Goldust.
And Goldust, I love this title. The gold leather IC title. Another wrestler at this point in time, I fucking love. I love Goldust. I'm such a Goldust mark. And what did it for me with Goldust? Obviously, the IC title run was really big, but the street fight, the him and Piper street fight,
the Hollywood backlot brawl with
the white Bronco.
So dumb, so dumb.
I love Goldust.
But the guy he loses it to is a guy that doesn't get talked about a lot anymore, and he almost had this is true. When Goldust was Intercontinental Champion, Undertaker had an Intercontinental title match. It was actually at the infamous In Your House Beware of Dog, I believe. And I believe it was a casket match. So In Your House Beware of Dog was a pay-per-view, obviously in Your House, where they did their first match, which I believe was, I want to say like Mark Merrow and Triple H or something like that. And the second match is Savio Vega and Steve Austin. And as they're coming to the ring, the pay-per-view feed cuts out. They were in like Birmingham, Alabama, I think, and there was an intense rainstorm. This is the only time this has ever happened. The power was completely knocked out at the building. And so, like, literally, they were down for hours. They came back just in time to do like the main event, which at that point, Shawn's the WWF champion, and this Shawn defending against the British Bulldog. So what they did was they were taping Superstars a few nights later. So it was In Your House Beware of Dog 2. And they showed the two matches that actually made the air. And then they also, they redid the matches that they lost. It was Goldust and The Undertaker, which wound up being the main event that night. I believe Vader and Yokozuna had a match, and I don't remember the third match. But
according to Wikipedia, Rick, it happened in San Bernardino, California, and when the title was vacated,
that might have been where
Savio Vega on the tape delay.
Oh no, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about In Your House Beware of Dog, which is where the Undertaker had his IC title match with Goldust.
But that's not even recognized on IWTV. It goes Goldust vacated, Goldust Ahmed Johnson.
Well, no. No, Undertaker didn't win the title.
Yeah.
It was I was incorrect. It was Florence, South Carolina. It was Florence, South Carolina was where the Beware of Dog was. But anyway, so Ahmed Johnson is going to win that title at King of the Ring from Goldust. Ahmed Johnson had a very Goldberg vibe to him. Very Goldberg vibe to him. And unfortunately, injury had a lot of it, had a lot to do. He was either he was injured or he was injuring somebody else pretty much all the time. But he had something, like he was impressive. He popped off the screen and he was super, super hot for a while. But he had a really bad injury after his first feud with Farouk. He had to vacate the Intercontinental title. And then
he's one of the first injuries
Mark
that
Merrow.
made me fall for an injury. When he did I fell off and the commentary had like a stray nail or something and it went through his hand. I bought that.
I don't remember.
Yeah, he gets knocked off the apron and he goes to and he grabs onto a commentary table and something cuts his hand or hurts his hand and he's he gets injured with it. Yeah, but I think it was just a way to get him off TV for a little bit.
It could have been, yeah, but he did get injured a lot, and he didn't injure other people a lot. So now we're gonna get kind of into, I would think, like worker belt 2.0 almost. Mark Merrow was having very good matches. It looked like they were going to bring in Mr. Perfect as like a heel manager, but then he leaves the company. Rocky Maivia, The Rock, gets his first run here in 1997 around WrestleMania 13. Owen Hart is going to get it, and he's going to lose it to Steve Austin. But this is the infamous Steve Austin match where Austin injures his neck. It's SummerSlam 97.
And so, if you watch the documentary, when Stone Cold is backstage and a doctor's tending to Stone Cold for his injury, it's our boy Dr. Frank.
Yes, who we got to work with at the Brewfest. He was he was looking in on some injuries during the Brewfest.
Man,
we also had Owen Hart
too.
Oh, Stone Cold is so hot at this point. It's basically you're just gonna give him the IC title to keep him warm because he's clearly getting the WWF title at WrestleMania.
And Owen was such a good IC title champion too. I love Owen as
Owen was great. Owen was great, and this is and that injury, Owen really leans into it because Austin has to vacate the title. He's going to be out from August to November. Owen's going to win it at Bad Blood, lose it back to Austin at the Survivor Series in Montreal. That Survivor Series, but Austin's not going to be the champion for long because he's going on the bigger and better things. They kind of had to have him win it just to close the book with Owen, but he basically beats The Rock at In Your House to Generation X and then gives the belt to The Rock. After that, like, I don't want your. I think that's when he threw it in the river. Actually, like, go get it, it's yours.
Yeah,
but yeah,
and we have a title change.
So The Rock is the champion.
Well, now this is our new championship.
Oh, I hate this one. Yeah,
we get the Oval Championship.
Oh no, why? No, I hate it.
I don't think it lasts very long though.
It was they kept it in essence for a while. It had a different look slightly. They made it look a little bit more like the classic title, but it was still.
It goes from this look, to this look, because it goes from F to E, it goes from the F to the logo, Attitude Era. So essentially, they're just changing the look from the classic WWF to more this Attitude Era, and they changed the font a little bit, and they changed the WWF in the middle, so that it only lasts for a year because in '98 we switch over to the Attitude Era title.
Yeah, and this is where the IC title definitely, well, not yet, because The Rock really gets elevated by it. Triple H wins it in a really good match at SummerSlam, really good ladder match between The Rock and Triple H. But it's like everybody watched that match. It was supposed to be like the match that makes Triple H, where it was like, oh, The Rock has got to be like the next big guy. Not that Triple H looked bad in that match, but it was the match that made people go like, oh no, The Rock's going to be like a top guy. Like, it was that match at SummerSlam. Unfortunately, Triple H did injure his knee very, very quickly into that run, so he has to vacate the title. And now it's going to become a little bit deeper rooted in the mid card. Now your top level guys, like it used to be like the IC champion was like one heartbeat away from the WWF title. The IC title post Triple H losing it is gonna, no disrespect to Ken Shamrock or Val Venus or anybody, but it's going to be very much a mid card title now, and
it's
not
being
a
hot
high
potatoes.
mid-card
Yeah.
title. Yeah. So, and I mean, this is Vince Russo, so yeah, you're gonna get a ton of different title changes.
But I'm gonna tell you right now,
for a day.
I like this era of the IC championship. It's for me as like someone who at some points didn't care about the world title. Like, I liked Jeff Jarrett as champion. I like seeing Edge as champion. D'Lo Brown, a great champion. We get China here. We get the beginnings of Chris Jericho and his amazing IC championship runs. Kurt Angle,
you get
Chris Benoit.
You get Chris Jericho and China as co-Intercontinental champions, which was a Russo.
And China being the first female to hold the Intercontinental Championship.
It's funny. I was gonna say that's such a Russo idea, and he was already gone at that point, so it wasn't even Russo.
We get like, during this run, we get Eddie Guerrero, Triple H again, Kane, Lance Storm gets it for a little bit. Edge and Christian bounce it back and forth. William Regal's the champion at this time. So this era of the championship to me is a lot of fun. It's hopped around a lot, but I like it.
Yeah. And Van Dam is a champion in 2002 when now we have the roster split. So the invasion angle is over, but we...
2002 it switches to this.
Yeah, that's the one I think that sticks around for a while, unfortunately. Yeah, but it's very similar, but now we've gotten the F out, and it's the WWE Intercontinental title.
Absolutely. Yep. Nailed it.
So we also get a roster split in 2002, and the Intercontinental Championship is going to be exclusive to Raw, and the US title is going to be revived for SmackDown. So from the old WCW US title, which was like their equivalent to the IC title, SmackDown is going to have the US, Raw is going to have the IC. This is when Eddie Guerrero comes back, has a very fun run with Rob Van Dam. They did a ladder match, I believe, in Edmonton that was very good. And yeah, you're still gonna have some high level guys here. Jericho is gonna have another run with it. RVD is kind of the guy I think of as like the quintessential IC champion for this stage of the game. But then around the time Kane has it, they really want to put over this world heavyweight title that they have, because it was kind of the thing that happened with Seth Rollins getting that world heavyweight title, and Seth being the workhorse and Seth being the guy was kind of what they were relying on to put that IC title on the map, or that world heavyweight title on the map. When they bring back the world heavyweight title, when Brock as the WWE Undisputed Champion just goes exclusive to SmackDown, they just hand Triple H the world heavyweight title and say, "Yep, you're the champ. You're the best guy here. You're the champ." So he learned from the best. He learned from the best, Shawn Michaels. You can, instead of not losing in the ring, you're not going to win in the ring. He's going to do the reverse Shawn. So Jesus. Triple H to add legitimacy to this title and to put more focus on it, they very briefly, for about 9 months, get rid of the Intercontinental title. And I remember hating this. I'm like, you can't get rid of the Intercontinental title. It's such a vital part of the history of the WWF. Why would you get rid of it? They basically keep rolling titles into titles. The European title and the Hardcore title get unified, and then the Hardcore title and European title get unified into the Intercontinental title, and then Triple H beats Kane to unify the Intercontinental title and the World Heavyweight title. And again, this is, I think, just it's awful, and it's just a misguided attempt to just
Could you imagine
that Triple H title seem legitimate.
If they kill off the history of this title in 2002?
Oh, if it would have never came back, that would have been a shame. It would have been a shame.
Yeah, bad, real bad.
So then they do revive it, and shortly after WrestleMania 18, they have a nice, fun little feud with Christian and Booker T.
Christian, another guy who puts this title kind of on the map.
Yeah, the reign that really sticks out in this era is Randy Orton's. Like, they elevate Randy Orton really well in 2003 with that Intercontinental. It's an amazing feud with Mick Foley. Mick Foley coming out of retirement for that feud. And they did a wonderful job of elevating Randy Orton. It was mainly in 2004, to the point where by the end of that Intercontinental title run, when he loses at the Edge, Randy Orton's going to jump into having that World Heavyweight title, but only for a month, because
well, during this section, when it comes back, I mean, Booker T has it for a little bit. Christian, and it kind of like some of the names that I have potatoes around with here is Christian, Rob Van Dam, Chris Jericho, Edge, and Shelton Benjamin are all kind of guys really holding it down. With also, you can throw in like a Jeff Hardy and a Johnny Mundo or Johnny Nitro at this time.
Yeah, this is well before Johnny Mundo.
And Kofi gets one of his first title runs during this era of this title as well.
Yeah, a guy I really liked around this time was Umaga. I think Umaga did a great job with that title. And just Umaga was something I didn't appreciate appropriately. The Randy Orton's reign stood out just because it had some heft to it. It had some length to it.
Yeah.
Where we're getting into like the dark ages of the Intercontinental title now, in my opinion. Everybody's mileage may vary. It's like kind of one of those things where the era you grew up in is usually the one you think is the best. And like this is the same title that like Randy Savage had and Mr. Perfect had. It's like, and now it's just being passed around like to guys who are kind of opening match guys. Not that these guys aren't good. It's just that they aren't really seen as guys who are going to be threats. Maybe Umaga, but
yeah,
not seen as threats to do anything substantial. And then finally, because it's been for the longest time, except for a very brief time when Van Dam had it on SmackDown, but it came right back to Raw with Jericho. The first time in the roster split era that the Intercontinental title is going to be a SmackDown specific title for any length of time was actually in 2009, when I believe Rey Mysterio just got drafted to Raw. They flipped the IC and the US title like they do a lot now in the draft. But it's the same kind of crew of guys. This is where Drew McIntyre gets his first IC title run. Is Vince's chosen one.
Yeah,
you're getting
a little before this.
Like
CM Punk gets his first, I believe, his first IC championship. I think it's first and only.
Yeah, Punk had it for a bit. It may be. I'm trying to think if he. Yeah, it is. Yeah, because then he's gonna kind of elevate to challenging for the world title a bit later.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of going through here.
A guy right before we get some major changes, one of the guy who wins his first titles in this era, who becomes pretty synonymous for the IC title for a long time, Dolph Ziggler, wins his IC championship during this era.
Yeah, and this is again very much in my opinion, again, like kind of the low point for the Intercontinental title, and it's going to be for a while. Even to go through like 2012, but this was a low point for WWE for me too. So maybe I'm a little biased. Maybe not 2012 because Punk was doing some great stuff in 2012, but
yeah,
I know the big thing for 2012 was this is where the Big Show finally gets his WrestleMania moment. He beats Cody Rhodes for the Intercontinental title.
So Cody Rhodes wins the title, and we get a title change.
Yes,
we go back to this.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I miss it. I miss it.
Yeah, this is going to change. This is going to change 2 more times, but it's going to stay relatively the same.
And this is a time where the Miz is having some fun runs, but it's again being passed around. Like I actually saw in person my first Intercontinental title change around this time. I saw the Miz beat Wade Barrett for it at the pre-show of WrestleMania 29. It was literally it wasn't even on the main card, and it was raining. It was like the only match it rained for that day. Was the Miz and Wade Barrett. Curtis Axel's going to have a run when they try to push him as a Paul Heyman guy. He's going to have a short run with it. Bad News Barrett, which is something which was a gimmick I thought had a lot of fun with. The Miz is going to have it a bunch of times. Luke Harper gets a run with it here. Brody Lee has a really good match with Dolph Ziggler. I believe it's
just
the match
for the
where
people
Ziggler
watching. It goes from this title to this title, so they kind of had it a little too glammed up, and they cut it. They went back to I'm lagging, and then it goes back to more that flat old school look, and then once we go to the modern era, we're gonna get it's a little blurry, but it's gonna go from that Attitude Era scratch logo to that clean modern day logo.
Yeah,
and that's gonna be used for pretty much everything we're talking about for quite some time.
So I think the first time they really make a concerted effort to rehab the Intercontinental title is at WrestleMania 31 when they have the big ladder match that Daniel Bryan wins, and people were, up in arms about him not winning, being in the main event, challenging for the world title. But he does win the Intercontinental title in a multi-man ladder match. But unfortunately, shortly after that, he has to vacate it because of some concussion issues that led to his retirement for several years. But now you're starting to get some guys like Ryback, who was you can make jokes about Ryback, but he wins it in an elimination chamber. They actually bring back the elimination chamber, and the match they do it for is the IC title. Kevin Owens is going to have his first run here. I was torn between the Macho Man shirt and the Kevin Owens shirt.
Yeah, so I feel here after Ryback, the IC title is now used, maybe here and there, not so much, but this is now used to launch the next generation of world champions at some point in time, or top guys in the company. So you get, I'll kind of go through a little bit. You got Kevin Owens, who's, has it, loses it to Dean Ambrose, goes back to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, Dean Ambrose, both Grand Slam champions at some point in time. Zack Ryder then gives it back to The Miz, who is a 2-time Grand Slam champion. Goes back to Dolph Ziggler, who I think is it could be the talks up with The Miz as one of the greatest IC champions. Then Dean Ambrose back to The Miz. Then you got guys like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, back and forth again with the IC championship. Back to Dean Ambrose. Bobby Lashley sneaks in there. Finn Balor sneaks in there. Shinsuke Nakamura. This white strap IC title is kind of used to be a launching point for top guys later on.
Yeah, and I think that 2016 Miz reign doesn't get the respect it's due, especially when they first do the roster split again, and the Miz is probably the best heel on SmackDown for a little bit there.
Man, and you got him on talking shit to Daniel Bryan on that thing, like legit cutting a real promo on him. We still never got that payoff. Never.
I mean, they did the program, but it didn't really work. It didn't really hit. And they wound up having to get like Maurice and Brie Bella involved, and it kind of diluted it a little bit. It's a good thing that this didn't happen, because Kofi Mania thing was such a big deal and so special.
Yeah.
But it seemed like to me for a while when we had the new Daniel Bryan, he had the hemp WWF or WWE title and everything. I'm like, it feels like they might too heel Daniel Bryan against babyface Miz for the title. And I'm like, that would be amazing.
Yeah, when he was the greatest wrestler in the world, when it was like Miz almost won that title, and Shane McMahon decided to step in.
The best in the world is Shane McMahon. There's only one best in the world. His name is Shane McMahon. And then we did have a little bit of an ebb again, I think, when not so much, again, very talented people, but it's just where it's being placed on the card, where like Nakamura has it, or a Braun Strowman, or even a Finn Balor.
Well, Braun Strowman wins it, and this is our introduction of what we have now.
Yeah.
Now this is from Braun Strowman on is the introduction to the brand new Intercontinental Championship, which is our current Intercontinental Championship as we speak.
I said earlier, it looks like a watch. It looks like a ring. It looks like a class ring you would wear. Yeah. Like after you graduate school.
It has grown on me, but I definitely still prefer the old school title.
As do I. It's not a bad title. It's not a bad title by any stretch of the imagination.
And this IC title generation is definitely held by one man when it comes to I know we have a longest reigning champion when it comes to this version of the title, but when I think when the history books are written, when people think of who they think of when it comes to this version of the title, I think it's our current champion, Sami Zayn.
I think Gunther might be right there with him. That reign was so good.
Gunther's going to be synonymous and probably is going to cement himself as one of the greatest IC champions. But I think when fans look back at this title, like, oh, Gunther had a good run there, but this was Sammy's title.
The amazing thing is Gunther in that one reign has the most time as Intercontinental Champion, even though the Miz has had it 8 times, and Chris Jericho had it like 9, I think, and Jeff Jarrett had 6 of them, and like in that one reign, Gunther was champion longer than anybody else. He obviously beat Honky Tonk Man's record, but he also passed like Don Morocco, The Miz, Pedro Morales as the guy who has spent more time as Intercontinental Champion than anybody else.
Yeah.
Which will show you how they like to bounce this belt around. Still is less than 2 years.
Yeah. So Gunther's gonna have it for 666 days on one reign. Honky Tonk Man 554 days on one reign. Pedro Morales 2 reigns, 425 days on one of those reigns. Randy Savage 1 reign, 414 days. Don Morocco 2 reigns, 385. Greg Hammer Valentine 1 reign for 285. Mr. Perfect 2 reigns for 280. The Rock 2 reigns for 265. Shelton Benjamin 1 reign for 244. Cody Rhodes 1 reign for 236.
Are you looking at the right title? I'm seeing completely different numbers.
That's what I'm looking for right now by Wikipedia when it comes to the longest reigning IC champions. I'm sorry. For longest reigns, that's what it's showing here.
Yeah, I'm seeing completely different numbers. I'm seeing like Pedro with 619, The Miz with 597, Don Morocco
It says
541.
Pedro only has his one run 414. It says here on Wikipedia.
Is somebody vandalizing Wikipedia? Because I'm seeing different things here. But whatever.
I'm sorry, Pedro's 425 according to this.
That's not what I'm seeing, but
interesting. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But whatever it may be, Gunther is it obviously has that record. Probably will have it for a long time. I don't foresee Sami Zayn having that title much longer. I'm going to be honest. No. I think Braun Breaker is going to have that very soon.
I think Braun Breaker
that is going to be that I think that is going to be that classic case of using that title to elevate somebody, using that title to elevate somebody into a main event level guy.
And Chris Jericho is at 9 total times. Miz is at 8. Ziggler's at 6.
Ziggler's got to be up there. Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett's at 6. Miz is at 6. RVD is at 6. And everything after that is pretty much 5 and under. But yeah, Jericho is your most times as the IC champion, with the Miz right behind him at 8.
I remember it was.
Yeah,
I remember it was a big deal that Razor had it 4 times. That was like the high water mark for a while.
Yeah, so that's essentially where we are now. Currently, we just said Sami Zayn is running it. He's in a program right now with Braun Breaker. We're rumor-wise, we're looking at possibly WWE changing the looks of the title for this modern era. So we might get new looks of the title, and kind of what they've been doing is they go for more like they're looking like they're doing like a gladiator-ish look, almost like the big gold with a lot of filigree and a lot of vine work and like lions or stuff like that on the title, where it looks very gladiator and like that's kind of how the tag team titles look, but they modeled themselves kind of after the shape of it is almost like the old Demolition title. The current day Seth Rollins title kind of looks like a different version of Big Gold. It has like a Big Gold feel to it. And the rumor is the IC champion is supposed to get a different look. The US championship is going to get a different look. And the other world championship, which is the Giant W, is supposed to get a new look very soon as well. The rumor is Cody's going to unveil, and everyone's saying it's going to be the new modern look of what everyone liked as the Winged Eagle. That's just all rumor, but we'll see how it comes out.
I don't think they're going to get too far away from having a giant WWE logo on their titles.
The W is going to be on the belt 100%.
Especially the main title, the Cody title, because they get so much free publicity just by sending whatever sports team wins the title that belt. It is all over. It is all over everything when they do that. It's all over the locker room. It's all over the parade. It's all over everything. But yeah, I think we're in a very good spot for the Intercontinental title. I think it's as strong as it has been in years, largely due to that Gunther reign and to Sami Zayn, really kind of keeping the charge on it. They treated a lot more serious than they did for a lot of the post 19, I would say 97, 1998. From 98 until about 2016 was really a bad time in my opinion for the title. But right now, they really do a good job of making that Intercontinental title mean something.
Yeah, Sammy was essentially the Rocky taking down the Ivan Drago, or the foreign champion at WrestleMania in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and that's another Intercontinental title. I've seen 2 Intercontinental title changes, and they were both at WrestleMania. How about that?
Yeah. So let's go into stat wise, no bias aside. Who do you take as your Mount Rushmore of IC champions?
If you're just looking at the numbers, I mean,
number wise,
through there.
Yep.
Yeah, because I think you got to put Honky there, because again, it's not just the amount of time he had it; it's how he used it. Like Gunther's not main eventing house shows for the most part with that IC title. Maybe he is actually, but Honky Tonk Man was drawing a lot of money, main eventing a lot of shows when that was the bread and butter of the business. It would be like if you put a pay-per-view main event with Gunther defending the IC title. I think you got to throw that respect to Honky Tonk Man.
So you got Gunther and Honky Tonk Man. In the chat too, we're going by stats only. Who do you think is your top, like statistic wise, IC champions? I agree with both of these so far. I go Gunther and I go Honky Tonk.
I got to throw Randy Savage on there. And I might be showing a little bias here, but I think Savage was the first guy to really elevate that title to the point where you could do a whole touring show Like there were a lot of shows that Hogan wasn't on, where the main event was Randy and Bruno Sammartino or somebody like that. That drew a ton of money, and a lot of that was Bruno, but a lot of that was Randy Savage too. Getting those people in there to see him get beat up, like we said with Honky.
Okay.
The third one's a little trickier. I'm trying to think of somebody. This should be your fourth. Because the fourth. So
this is your last.
Yeah. So those are the three I think obvious ones for me, just because those are people who really put that title on and I think they really put that title on a level that it wasn't at when other people had it. And it's difficult to, I'm finding it a little difficult. I have to say it, and it's going to, because, there's the one guy, if you're just looking at statistics, if you're looking at kayfabe, there's the one guy who, as the Intercontinental Champion, won the WWF title. That's the Ultimate Warrior.
Wow.
He's the guy that he was he could say, I'm just as good as the champion. I'm just as good as a WWF champion, and he proved it. So if you're looking complete kayfabe, complete record books, complete statistics, you have to have the Ultimate Warrior there.
Okay. I would go, for me, stat-wise, I'm going to go Gunther as the longest reigning is on my Mount Rushmore. I'm not putting Honky Tonk on, because I think Gunther takes that spot from Honky Tonk, erases his face off the mountain. I go Macho Man, because I think Macho Man really put that title on the line. So I got Macho Man, I got Gunther, and then I go your most times. I go Chris Jericho, and then I go The Miz as my top four IST champions.
I always think like winning the title a bunch of times just meant you lost it a lot. So I always kind of discount that.
That's fair. But that's my four. I'm gonna go Savage, Miz, Jericho, Gunther.
Okay, that's good. I would have had Shawn Michaels on mine, but he had a knee injury, so he couldn't make it to Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, they couldn't get his face sculpted.
Yeah.
Who is your personal?
They couldn't just. Okay, this is big difference.
Yeah.
I think the only guy that's definitely going to stay is Randy Savage. That's a bias.
I'm with you. Me and Randy are both. We both have Randy on our mountain.
If he's not my favorite wrestler ever, he's second. I'm having that discussion internally now. Has Danielson eclipsed Savage as my all-time favorite? That's kind of like that battle I have with myself sometimes.
When he wins a title in London and takes it to Japan, he'll eclipse your Savage.
There you go.
Yeah.
So just because of that era, just because I thought he was so good with it, I gotta put Mr. Perfect up there.
Okay.
Mr. Perfect is definitely up there for me.
Oh, that's tough.
I think he was an incredible Intercontinental champion. I think Gunther did such a good job re-legitimizing that title that Gunther is going to be on there for me.
Okay.
And I'm probably going to go back to somebody that, like, as I was kind of really getting into wrestling, is like, okay, that's the Intercontinental champion. This is a guy who is running that division for me. I'm going to put Razor Ramon on there.
Okay. I love it.
Savage, Savage, Mr. Perfect, Razor Ramon, Gunther.
So I'm going to go Savage. I'm going to go Shawn. I'm going to go Razor. And then for my fourth spot, it's tough. It's so goddamn hard. Fuck, man, because like I want to throw on like a Ziggler. I love Ziggler as champion. I love Perfect as champion. My reinvigoration into the championship scene, like Dean Ambrose and stuff with it, Kevin Owens with it. But I think I'm gonna go Razor Shawn because they have my best ladder match, and Razor was that guy that kind of really put on the map for me. Shawn is my guy, Savage is my guy, and my fourth is gonna be The Miz. The Miz is gonna be my fourth guy in Mount Savage. Yeah, and we got Edge, Jericho, Miz, and Shawn for SWAGM in the chat. People tend to forget the IC title was the only title Piper ever had, and that is true. Yep.
Yeah, that is very true. Never had the tag title. Never had the big title. Never was a world champion. Imagine that. Roddy Piper was never a world. Different time.
Yeah.
There's so many guys like that. Well, I mean, Mr. Perfect was if you count the AWA title. Rick Rude, if you count the international title, was, but if you don't, he was never a world champion.
Yeah.
Ted DiBiase, unless you count when he bought the title, was never world champion. Even though he did, they don't consider that a reign. Even though he did defend it, once.
Yeah. But yeah, that was awesome fun. We are going to be doing more history of championships. I think it's pretty safe to say we promised the people a U.S. championship and we never gave it to them. So I think we'll say sometime in August.
That'll be fun.
The next championship we will cover the history of is going to be the U.S. championship, and that'll go from the WCW side carried over to the WWE side to a current day. So the next one we will cover
another one
is
of my
the US
favorite another one of my favorite belts look wise was the WCW era U.S. title. I thought that was a beautiful belt.
Yeah. Yep. All right, BP. So besides, we have August coming up. You want to brainstorm a little bit live on the podcast and see what we got coming up for future episodes?
I know we owe everybody a what if here. What if King of the Ring 95 was good? I think
you need a little more time to prep that one. That took a lot of time to rack your brain on how to make that show good. So we needed an extra week.
Yeah. So yeah, the book and my booking energies were going to book a show I'm going to plug here in a few minutes. So I had to divert my booking energies to something else for a little bit. And then, I think we can definitely do a U.S. title, one. I don't know if you want to do another show or something like that in August. We could throw up an old SummerSlam. I'm partial to SummerSlam 91. SummerSlam 91 is a wild show. It's such a unique show. And it has, piggybacking off of this, it has that amazing Brett Mr. Perfect Intercontinental title match. It's Mr. Perfect's final night as the Intercontinental Champion.
SummerSlam what?
91. From Madison Square Garden.
1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 Sundays to do. So we have What If, King of the Ring 95, U.S. Championship, SummerSlam 91. And we have one more. So like maybe another history of.
We could do that. Yeah. I don't know if anybody has any outstanding requests for a history of, but we can do a deep dive on somebody some point.
We'll give it to the chat. I know there's a little bit of delay. We'll let you guys in the chat pick a what if. Who do you want us to cover? The history of their career or who they are as people? We'll let it up to you guys. First, we'll let a couple comments come through, and we will decide as the hosts of this shenanigan city here what will be. So we have What If King of the Ring 95 will be on the 4th. The 11th will be the U.S. title. The 18th will be SummerSlam 91. Ooh, Raz says Miss Elizabeth. That's interesting.
That would be tricky to get an hour out of, but yeah, we could try it.
All right, that's a contender. It's not the winner. We'll see what else, if anyone else posts anything. I know we talked about Bret Hart, the history of Bret Hart.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's one you could do like the whole.
So here's the thing. I think we should do a month. Somewhere in the month we do the history of Bret. The following month we do the history of Shawn, and then the next month we do.
And then that leads to
the
great debate. Yes,
the great debate.
All right.
Of why you're a Bret guy, why you're a Shawn guy. Maybe November. Yes. We can lead into November.
Yeah.
Are you team Bret? Are you team Shawn? Who are you voting for?
I'm gonna get screwed here. No, I don't like this. I don't like this.
All I'm saying is we have mail-in ballots for Shawn.
I know a trap when I know it. Look, no mail-in ballots, no collusion. Look, we're gonna have an uprising.
I love that idea. That could be our lead up to the political landscape.
I'm gonna if that happens, we're gonna have a show on January 6th of 2025, and I'm just gonna steamroll that entire thing. Whatever we're talking about, just gonna make it all about Bret Hart.
Yeah. So September we'll do the history of Bret.
The vote.
October we do the history of Shawn. November we do the debate, and we elect our podcast goat.
And it's fine, but I'm not going to do it in Canada.
All right. History of 1, 2, 3 Kids put out there. Mr. Wrestling 3.
That would be a good. That's not really a thing.
Okay. History of the 1, 2, 3 Kid.
That would be interesting. The 1, 2, 3 Kid would be an interesting one to do. Yeah.
The history of the J Cup.
Which one? There's like 80 million J Cups.
Yeah, there's a lot of J Cups. The Jersey Cup or the
one in Japan, the real one, like.
Yeah.
I like the Brett Sean thing, and 123 Kid is definitely somebody, or X-Pac, whatever you want to call him. Now, he has had a very fascinating career and a guy that does not get the respect he deserves.
Inoki
would be an interesting one.
So you're leaning heavily on 123 Kid?
I like that. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing Inoki at some point too, but yeah, but for this month, I think the Brett for this month, Sean for the month after
Suzuki,
is good.
another one.
Monroe he's had a very interesting career.
Yeah, let's do 123 Kid. 123 Kid X-Pac for the end of August, our 4th episode.
Right on.
All right.
I thought Brett was the 4th one.
I know Brett's not till
September. That's right.
September.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. September will be Brett.
Yeah, X-Pac I think was a good one.
Yeah. I love it. We'll have a show review, a what if, a title history, and a wrestler history. So you guys already the history of Bryant in ROH that can come up. If Danielson wins the world championship, maybe that'll be something we sneak in an episode, the history of Bryant to this point.
Maybe, yeah.
All right, thank you everyone.
He is confirmed to be winding down a little bit here.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who, and then we also have the history of John Cena that's going to be coming up soon because that might be a 2-parter. But that might be something we'll have to do because his retirement's coming up. Guys, if you are listening to this audio wise, please take a screenshot and let us know what platform you're using. Use Spotify and leave some comments on there so we can leave your comments. Anyone watching this later on, leave some comments and we'll get to you guys also. Like, share, subscribe. Word of mouth helps this podcast grow. Let's get us back up into that top 250 chart at Apple. So subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Listen to us on your drive home from work. We have a lot of great podcasts to listen to, not just Tornado Tag, but we have the horror movie reviews, the movie reviews, interviews with great interviews coming up. Closing out the month, we have Sammy Chaos tomorrow. And then on Tuesday, we'll have Eddie Reyes, former member of Taking Back Sunday, founding member of Taking Back Sunday, to close out this month. Grab some merchandise if you can. Subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. The membership can go as little as 99 cents or as much as 100. Or you can you can pay to play however you want over on Patreon. Super chats and donations. Everything right now is going towards the trying to get these cameras for the podcast. I have a lot of cool ideas of stuff I want to do with these cameras. It's just hard right now trying to get them. So any help will be great. BP, anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, August 10th. So that'll be 2 weeks from yesterday. August 10th, I'll be at PPW for Conquest. We just announced a fun match tonight, and it was like literally right before this. One of the reasons I was a little late connecting with you today is we announced the second women's match for the show. Danny Moe is going to be facing. It's funny because one of the cool things about these past couple of shows is that we've seen locally this week is that we do have a lot of international flair. We got to see R1 again. We had a guy from Chile, Pedro Pablo, who was wrestling at Brewfest yesterday. But and I'm trying to square down her name here, and I unfortunately I have to just pull it up on my phone, I guess. But hang on one second. Her name is, sorry for the big delay here. I know the show is going very long.
You're good.
Her name is Asmita Jarelli. She is from Nepal. So a few months ago, Danny Moe went to Mount Everest, the first base camp of Mount Everest, over 18,000 feet above sea level, and had a wrestling match on Mount Everest, set a record for the highest altitude for a women's wrestling match in history. And she was on Jericho's podcast.
Imagine carrying the ring up there.
It was a very makeshift ring. It was not a regulation wrestling ring. I'll say that much. It was like a few mats and like literal rope on sticks, I think.
Okay.
But she's not going to be, this isn't the person that Danny wrestled in Everest, but this is the referee for that match. She is also a wrestler from Nepal. She is in the United States, and she will be coming to PPW to take on Danny Moe.
Awesome.
So that's going to be a fun one. Facade and Nolan Pierce, title versus title, almost that Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior thing going on there. A lot of other really fun things. I know a match that I'm looking forward to. 2 matches I'm really looking forward to. Diego Hill and Chris Slade are going to tear the house down, as are Dio Bando and GKM. We got a lot of fun stuff planned.
Yeah.
That's all.
We will be back in Philly on the 16th of August for Solar Slam, for the no ring shows with High Tension and Pro Wrestling Explosion. Some awesome matchups already lined up for that one, so go follow them for all that information. As well as I'll be back at New Era Pro Wrestling on the 17th, so make sure you check us out there. I do have some episodes lined up already for next month. I will have my first returning podcast guest next month. Yeah, the first ever return. So it's going to be the first podcast of somebody who was on the podcast as an ABJ interview and getting a return interview. Yes.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yep. And then I'll kind of give you one more spoiler here for the month before you see the thumbnail. We will be reviewing the original Beetlejuice just in time for the new one to come out next month. Yes.
One of my all-time favorite movies. The original.
And it will not be, it might be live, it may not be live, but it'll be a 4-way movie review. So the 4 of us doing it. Something to look forward to. Yeah, that's something to look forward to.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah. All right, everyone, thank you so much. Make sure you screenshot this, share it on social media, say you've been watching it, let people know you've been doing it. Check out some previous episodes we just watched. I saw the TV Go with Kim Rose, as well as I just did Carrie with Trixie Valentine. So go check out those previous episodes on the audio side of things. Tell your friends, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all social media. We have the links below. If you're watching on the High Tension Wrestling Network, come over and subscribe to the ABJ side of things over on my channel. If you're watching on the ABJ side of things, go over and subscribe to the High Tension side of things. So let's get that going. Let's help each other grow. We have some great content people we work with, a lot of cool things coming. Possibly, we got this beautiful IC title that I get to hold, but I might be a double champ soon, BP. I'm feeling there's a need out there for tornado tag champions. And I feel like we're going to scratch that niche very, very soon. So keep your eyes peeled. Ruda Entertainment, TWF, Tornado Tag Champions coming your way very soon. Little teaser for y'all. We'll see you guys on the next one very, very soon. Come join me tomorrow for my interview with PPW Zone, and they work everywhere. They're very, very talented. Sammy Chaos. But this is some music by the Converse Kid.
Amazing.
Oh, I love her. This is music by the Converse Kid. We'll see you all next time. We're out of here. BP, I have doctors in the back telling me I cannot defend this title. So how dare you guys even try to take advantage of me like that?
Only in Rio.
What's that?
Place, Rio de Janeiro. That's it.
No, I was pulling a Bret Hart. Remember when he was doing the doctors in the back telling me I can't?
Right. This is a real injury. This isn't some hokey injury.
Do you think that was shots at Sean?
Maybe.
I think so. All right, see you guys next time. Bye.